Who's this person?
Hello.
Got another chair over there.
I was always worried about the chickens.
You can bring that chair over here.
On the fence with me. She's not paying any attention to the chickens.
That's all I've just wanted.
They're eating it, yeah.
I thought, okay, so
I
that's.
grew up years ago. We're-
Mary, when they dug up they had to dig up my garage because of my oil
You
spill.
found it in the seat?
And when they dug it up, within 6 inches of the floor was all bedrock. So I think he's hiding in all the bedrock. I think he's living in all the
Tyson, so I think
bedrock.
I'm the only
under
one that hasn't
I think
met
there's a
most of you in
space between
person.
the concrete and the bedrock. And he's a happy camper.
Nice to meet you.
Nice and cool.
Sanders, I was gonna say that
Cool.
sounds familiar.
His
started-
parents water him periodically, you know.
Prlac was 4 months ago, not that long.
I was gonna set out a little dish to attract bugs so he
Yeah,
could eat
good.
them. And
One thing I didn't do.
Worked with,
I didn't bring a sign up.
emailed Sarah.
One piece of paper. Not really. We're gonna like announce
Water
ourselves
quality.
anyway, I guess so.
Monitoring and
Gosh, we haven't done
I'm
that
at
so
the
long. I
SLA.
forgot we even did that.
Oh, sure.
What are you signing up for?
She doesn't even know. We've never done it. We're new.
Busy.
I've never met him.
we should have little name tags. We've forgotten who we are.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
remember.
where are you?
I
The
remember
worst part is
signing up.
What I look like,
So long.
I even washed up.
The notebook's falling
But I
apart.
don't, but I don't have a glass of wine. That's the part.
did this thunderstorm start yet?
Light rain right now, beautiful rainbow.
As they usually start a meeting, at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. And,
You want flooding rain?
I'm opening the
Go to
meeting.
Texas.
good six. All right, so we've got an extensive agenda as
Yes.
usual, and we're definitely not gonna get through it. But regardless, we'll get through as far as we can. First thing I want to do is we'll announce ourselves and for the benefit of the secretary. And I'm
Oh,
Bill.
that's Lisa now, not Judy. Yeah. Or Russ. She's getting.
I mean,
Oh, Russ, yeah.
Are you the secretary?
Yes.
she
Talked into
Yep.
that.
Oh,
is
wow.
being awesome.
Good job.
Barry's always available to fill in.
Oh, Russ is always available too.
You took excellent minutes.
So
there.
I'm Bill Bolton. I'm the chair of Prlac for the time being.
I'm Lisa Donor. I'm the secretary. For the time being.
I'm Neil McIver. I'm from Plymouth.
Russ Brummer from New Hampton, no longer the secretary.
Carl Lane from Holderness.
Tyson Morrill from Ashland.
Llewellyn Skinner from Compton.
Cheryl Howard from Campton.
Judy Farron from Bridgewater.
Max Stamp, Bristol.
Barry Draper, New Hampton.
Kathleen DeWolf, Ashland.
And we don't have, actually our guests, if they could introduce themselves, both the ones here and also on the Zoom call. Actually, we have Katri.
Katri's on there, yeah.
Hey, Bill. Yeah, Katri Gurney Thornton.
Okay. Could the other guests please introduce themselves? Your mic is currently off. Christopher. No, there it goes.
Well, yeah, Bob Gallagher from Thornton, new to Zoom, so bear with me.
Wow, just in time to stay off of Zoom.
I'm Chris Marshall. I'm a longtime resident of New Hampton and Bristol, but only for part of the year. I live on the Pemmy, and I care a lot about the Pemmy.
Very good. We got a live one. Michelle.
Hello, my name is Michelle Tremblay, and for this evening, I am the president of the Board of Directors of the New Hampshire Rivers Council.
Thanks, Michelle. We have a couple.
Just this evening.
Pardon me? Oh, she's
Yeah.
multi-titles.
The New Hampshire Risk Council?
Rivers.
Oh, Rivers Council.
Yeah, and we spell New Hampshire all the way out just to make your life a little bit more interesting.
Is that your pen?
Rivers is RVRS. Is that what it is?
Just spell out New Hampshire instead of NH and it will have been worth my entire evening.
Simple pleasures.
How
about Pemigewasset?
I'll be quiet.
Believe me, she knows how to spell that
Yeah.
I know how to spell it and I'm not afraid to use it and I care about it as well.
in a derogatory fashion. You amateur wasset. So we have a couple of guests. Did we all finish? Okay.
There's Bob and Lynn Murray, Livingstone, and they're right on the pad.
Very good. So I guess we are all introduced. The first order of business is in lieu of, actually, in addition to the introduction, is approval of our minutes from our May 25th meeting.
I have 2 corrections. Page 3. Top of the page. It says Evergreen. It should be Eversource. And then it says in Ashland, left all sand, very little topsoil. I'd like to strike that and put very little topsoil is visible. Because I only saw it from a distance. I didn't actually, because I had to go on private property to inspect it closely. Just get the idea that the topsoil was removed. Those are the only 2 things I have.
So I've got a few. First page, second line of paragraph label 3, Fish and Game managed, just
Yeah,
type out.
yeah, spelling.
And then on page 2, paragraph starts with Myrtle. Second line creates I think that's a work pad, not a word
Oh,
pad.
yeah.
The first line on that same page 2, it says the word last twice, right on the top line.
Yeah, it says vegetation management was done last.
Yeah. I assume this. I suspect
Last
it-
year or last, what's the date on this? Well, it says vegetation was done last. I
Last
assume it
year.
meant last year or last month or
Year,
last,
yeah, it should be last year.
last year. Okay.
And then on page 3, paragraph labeled the number 10, third line, it refers to MSDL. I suspect that's the MSDS.
Yeah.
Safety data sheet?
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, it's not Genesis Healthcare, it's Spear Memorial Hospital.
Where's
Yeah, they.
that reference?
Number 10.
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
looking at the minutes, I'm writing
Oh, yeah,
notes. So
number 10. followed
Number
by-
10, it says behind Genesis, it's not Genesis, it's Spear Memorial Hospital.
Okay, somebody mentioned Genesis.
Yeah, it needs to be there.
So,
It's stuck, yeah. Not really.
so I should correct the
It could-
language of,
It could have been me,
Okay.
actually, yeah. Because, I mean,
Hmm?
it could have been me that said Genesis Healthcare.
We'll blame you. You take, yeah.
That's an old sign. That is not,
Yeah,
yeah, there's no, Genesis hasn't been there in 20 years.
yeah, it's like Anderson.
So it's Spear Hospital.
but the building on Langdon is not Spear,
Yes, it is.
but it's not Spear Hospital.
Yes, it is.
Hospital's up the
They
hill.
actually picked up
It's-
those properties.
So it's property owned by Spear.
It's
It's not the
the
hospital itself.
offices of Spear Hospital for the billing office. So it is a part of Spear. It's just physically not.
Campus facility.
I'll just put offices.
Correct.
Yeah.
Trying to be fancy.
Behind Spear Hospital, they're gonna think it's the one up there.
Well, just say, yeah, just say Adjutant offices or something, anyway.
Any others? Any other,
Well, I had.
is there a motion to accept?
I got
this?
one more thing, which I hate to do this, but the first thing, nominations for the offices and all that, that was done in April, I believe.
Yep, but we corrected it. It was a,
Right, but that's
Maybe I
line
should-
2 is your corrections. Line 1 sounds like you're having the elections. I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading it wrong. Okay.
Move
I'll
to accept
resign
as
as
amended.
secretary.
Oh, yeah,
I'll
that's
second
another one. What, to resign is done?
A motion's been made and seconded.
For what?
Move it, accept as amended.
Okay, yes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No more roll call votes. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Yay. All right. All right, so number 3, Michelle Tremblay is here regarding the discussion we had about the New Hampshire Rivers Council program called Watershed Steward. Unfortunately, who brought that up? Was it Myrtle or was it? I think Myrtle wanted to find out more about it, but regardless, this will be on tape. So we'll make sure she hears it. So Michelle, you want to describe?
I'd love to, except I'm interested where you said unfortunately.
The
What's
person
that?
isn't
The-
here.
Yeah, the person that wanted to.
Oh, okay. Well, it is recorded and I'm happy to answer any questions as well. The New Hampshire Rivers Council started this program in partnership with the New Hampshire Lakes Association when I did contracting work for them. And this is going back in the mid-90s. And we partnered with several organizations. We did some work with the Winnipesaukee Basin people. We did some work more recently with the Winnicott River when we took on the program as our own. And we're going to be working not only in that watershed, but we're thinking of doing it in others, including the McQuestion watershed and the Turkey River watershed. The program works on a principle of congratulate, not regulate. The idea being is that people don't want to have the hammer brought down on them, even when some of them clearly deserve it. So this may not be the program for them. But the idea is that not only are they congratulated for their stewardship in the watershed, but the sign that they put up shows neighbors that they do care and they have taken steps. And we hope that they ask questions of their neighbors and how they can also be part of watershed stewards. And the group that we did in the Winnicott River watershed was really interesting because it did work out that way. And then at the end of the season, we had a nice little recognition ceremony. People came to a home, they were given their signs and each of them were recognized. And then the group leader, which in this case might be you if you decide to go forward with it, was able to speak with them and also make arrangements for renewal. So if I'm allowed to share the screen, what I would like to do is walk through the materials very quickly. And then if you decide that this is something more interesting, then we can have a follow-up conversation. And I want to be quick about running through these documents so there's plenty of time for questions and discussion. Bill, does that work for you?
Yep. And I think you may be able to share it right now.
Okay, great. Okay. All right, well, let's start here. Okay, what you're looking at here, try to imagine this printed on kind of a brown paper bag stock. We've used recycled paper just to make sure that what we do follows along with those lines. So a couple of these materials are completely paper bag and a couple of them have multiple pages, and we do that in a little bit more white paper to cut down on eye fatigue. This first piece is a brochure that you would use, for instance, if you were visiting an old home day, you were displaying at a farmer's market, you would take this 2-page brochure, so that's the back covers, and this is the inside of it, all printed on brown newsprint, and you would give this to people and talk with them and see if you could make appointments to come and work with them. One thing that I want to add is that some people refer to this as an audit, the way you would audit somebody's home, for instance, for their septic systems. But we prefer to call them visits and help people come to where they need to be as far as water quality is concerned. So these are the inside parts of it to basically sell the program. What is the Watershed Steward Program? What is its purpose? How does it work, which we'll explain in a little bit, and then what can you do? So over here, you can see that on the back of this, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, but on the back of this, the local Watershed Steward Program sponsor would put their information here. We could customize it, or you could just put a sticker on it. Some people have put business cards on it, but that's the first piece, is essentially bringing people into the program. So you can see it's assistance and recognition for watershed citizens. And I'd like to stop here and see if anybody has any questions about what they've just seen in the Evelyn Wood speed displaying method. All right, let's move on to the second piece then. This is the report card, and you can see that there would be information here prepared for Bill Bolton. Here's his address and any kind of contact information. So that's the cover. And then when you open it up, this is the left side. So it says for office use only. So this is the part that you would bring home where the scoring is. And here is what the homeowner would see. So for instance, there are site observations. You would walk the property with the homeowner and let them know A through N, what you're looking at, what you're seeing. So for instance, you'd ask them about the number of acres. You'd make your own observations about the primary land use, the location of the property, shorefront, wetlands, so forth, their drinking water source, the number of bedrooms in their place, number of residents. Are they on municipal or private septic disposal, the age of their system, which is a key question because if you ask them how old their septic system is or how long it's been since they've pumped it and they say, when was the first Bush president? Then you know you have some problems there. And then you're making other observations. I won't go through all this, but the part with the box is interesting because that's where you're going to be giving them what's considered to be ranking. And that is, you know, are you using salt and de-icing products? Do you dispose of yard waste, sand, other materials as swales and storm drains? How do you dispose of chemicals and solid wastes on your land? Do you fertilize without prior soil testing? About unvegetated soils within 50 feet of waterways or in areas where it's a steep slope. You notice if there's any kind of field saturation during rainstorms or even not during rainstorms, the sign of a failed septic system. And just general questions that not only rank and assess someone for suitability to be certified as a watershed steward, but also it's a good thing to talk about. And we're going to go through that in just a moment. So the last page is another opportunity for you to brand yourself. This is exactly a business size card right here on the right, just above the Rivers Council branding. And you can see the recommendations for Watershed Steward Program certification. You know, they may have to get their system pumped and inspected. If there's something else that's not directly relating to ranking or another visit is required, then you can talk about that with them. And then they get this piece. So this is the back of what they receive. This is the front of what they receive. And this part is what you as a sponsor organization would be retaining. And the ideal here is that you would want to make an appointment for, let's say, 3 years or 5 years from now and do this assessment again, particularly with an eye toward the septic questions, but also there are other land use changes that might be happening. And for the certification is concerned, we'll talk about the scoring on that in just a bit, but we're obviously looking at an average total because in some cases, some of these questions might not apply. This booklet is really interesting, at least to me, because again, picture the cover of this printed on newsprint, more place for a local sponsor to be able to brand themselves. And then these inside pages are a little bit lighter and easier to read. So again, this talks about how can I help others to improve water quality? What's the Watershed Steward Program? And these pages are going to seem off because right now they're in print format. So when we send this to a printer with your customizations, you're not going to see page 16 and 1. You're going to start with 1 that talks about what is the program and where can I get help is obviously at the end. So this is the part that I really like to talk about with people. This is the third page and it says, why do you ask? You might wonder what some of the questions on your report card have to do with protecting water quality. Here's further information. So it goes through, for instance, A through N, talking about why we're asking those particular questions. Location of property, distance to tributaries, wetlands, rivers, and lakes helps determine pollution sensitive areas, number of acres, knowing lot size helps determine what water quality management techniques might be right for your property. And it goes through the A through N questions. So there they are there. And then it talks a little bit about alternatives for different aspects of property management. So everything from herbicides to rodenticides to pesticides. It talks about things for lawn and gardens, how to dispose of waste, why it would be better to wash your car on your lawn or where there's pervious surface versus driveways and other paved areas, how to take care of your septic system. You know, for instance, do you use a garbage disposal, what that effect has on it? People might not realize that. How to maintain your septic system, recommendations on it. What else can I do saving water? So again, these seem a little bit out of order because they're in print format right now. And then there's a small version of the report card here that people can look at. And just backing up just a pinch, there is a section here, where can I get help? So Rivers Council, we can customize this, include your information, Department of Environmental Services, Cooperative Extension, local lake or watershed association. And that's where we would say, see your sponsor information on the back cover. And it can also be a town or city conservation commission, a county conservation district, anybody along those lines that can provide help. And then the really cool part, and I see if I can sneak this under here, the controls. Once this is all done, then a watershed steward sign is printed and it has the customized name. So Pemigewasset River Watershed. And this would be something that you would give to homeowners that pass the criteria with scoring. And we would work with you on that because rivers and lakes and some other areas tend to be different. We want the program to mean something, not just have anybody have one of these signs in front of their places. But we do recognize, you know, not quite grading on a curve, but being sensitive to different types of watersheds, rivers, lakes, tributaries, that we can work with scoring on you. These signs are about a 10 by 11. They're almost square. We did have some larger ones available, and we can certainly make those again, but most people felt like they didn't want to have a giant sign on their lawn, but if they do, we're thrilled and we can make those happen. These are smaller. They're on a very rigid plastic, about 1/8 of an inch, a little bit thicker, and they have holes drilled in them so they can be put up on a tree. They can be put up on a post by the mailbox, virtually anywhere. And we hope that people will display them proudly once they're certified. So I've kind of run through the 4 products that are involved, but what we want to talk about briefly is how a local sponsor works with the program. The cost we pass along is basically that, a cost. We don't make any profit on the materials, so we pass that along to you. We would provide a training on how to work with homeowners, how to grade them, how to certify, also how to work with them on checking in 3 or 5 years or whatever is the appropriate amount of time. And then we'd also want to work with you on what we call social marketing principles or community-based social marketing principles, not to be confused with social media. And I want to ask, has anybody ever employed these principles in any of their outreach or education? Do you want to hear about it? Okay. All right. The Doug Mackenzie Moore, University of New Brunswick, was really the pioneer on this, but several organizations since have taken it up. And for me, as a private consultant, not tonight, I've used this. The idea is that you want to remove barriers to desirable behaviors, and you want to create barriers for the less desirable behaviors, and in turn provide incentives in either direction. So an example that people often use is that everyone knows that if you keep your tires inflated, your car handles better and you're going to get better mileage. But what's standing in your way? Has anyone ever done this on a weekly basis? And if not, why?
No one does it on a weekly basis.
No.
What's that?
No one does not, do
Weekly
that.
basis, no.
Because theoretically, you could probably do this every time you go to the filling station, right? And gas up.
You used to be able to when they
Yeah.
had
Full service.
Bing, bing.
air at the filling station.
And it was free.
Yeah. And it
But
worked.
see,
Yes.
you're hitting on some great thoughts about where are the barriers in this. And so it's not free anymore. The filling stations aren't staffed and they're usually around the corner or hidden. They might not work. You might not have quarters with you. There's a whole bunch of reasons why you're not doing it. So those are the barriers. So if people really wanted everyone to keep their tires inflated, what could they do?
Sell the car.
Check
Well,
the
they
tire
could-
pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, you see the warning light, actually. That's-
Yes.
That's what clues me in.
and it would be nice if the air machines didn't take quarters, so you weren't in a panic, like taking all your stems off and running around the car before it was done, making sure that the machine was in good operation, it wasn't hid around a dark corner, and there's a whole bunch of things that would make sense there. So those would be incentives to get it done, and we'd also be removing the barriers. And it seems tangential, but the reason I bring this up is because we talked a little bit about the question about, do you fertilize your lawn without getting your soil tested? Almost everyone's going to say yes. And wouldn't it be great if you worked with local nurseries and figured out a way where you could hand out these tests or provide these tests at a small cost? And when they turn in their samples, they could get a coupon for instance, low phosphorus fertilizer at a local nursery. That would be removing a barrier and providing an incentive because they wouldn't have to go hunting around to find out where they could get their soil tested and get the media for it. And they get the incentive when they get a coupon to buy the soil that their test indicates that they should have. The same would apply to a septic system pump out and inspection. The really bold way that you could do this is find a pumper and say, we're going to give you business in the New Hampton area, and we think we're going to be able to get you 5 properties in one day. So when you're working with people on this, you can say, okay, well, it sounds like it's been a while, 5 years since you've had your septic pumped and inspected. What time on Thursday would you like? We have 3 o'clock open. So you've just eliminated a ton of barriers. And if you're working with that hauler and they can do 5 properties in one day, let's say, they might be willing to provide a group discount. So there's another barrier lifted and incentive provided. So those are not specifically in the materials, but they do give examples about what you can do in your area to make things happen. So instead of just grading a report card and saying you really need to get your septic pumped, you've eliminated several steps and are all but assured that someone is going to get their septic pumped and inspected. So those are just a couple of examples of what you can do to enhance the value of a program like that. And I want to reiterate that I'm very grateful that you've invited me to your meeting, and sorry I can't be with you there this evening, but did want to leave as much room for questions as possible. And Bill, you're in charge of the clock, so I'll hand things back to you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Michelle. Appreciate it. Any questions or brief questions?
How many people how long has this program been active?
Yeah, a good question, Christopher. As I mentioned, we started it with the New Hampshire Lakes Association in the mid-90s. So we've done select watersheds around the state. And then the New Hampshire Lakes Association has a different kind of program now. So we went off on our own and worked on watersheds since then, most recently the Winnicott, because we have a watershed restoration and management plan there. And as I mentioned earlier, another group is working on the Turkey River for a similar plan. And then the Rivers Council has done a similar project with the McQuestion watershed. So we'll probably be bringing this in as one of our implementation phases. So it's been around a while and it's been around the state.
Have you had good response?
The homeowners have been really interested in it. I think that, when someone comes and shows a genuine interest in your property, you've been invited on their land and in their homes, and they have an opportunity to learn. it's been really well received. And as I said, there might be some conversations that are not easy to have. We can't certify you at this time, but we can help you get your septic pumped and inspected, and then we'll come back and visit again. That's the kind of conversation that isn't, all rainbows and puppy dogs, but it handled correctly. And we do work with groups and train them with role playing, and don't groan, but role playing really helps in these situations. So I feel like it's an opportunity. So that's a long answer to say that so far we haven't been ill received. Most people are very, very interested and have taken the next steps.
I may have missed it, Michelle, but do you start by knocking on doors or?
I probably would not. That's the purpose of this small brochure, just sort of one piece of paper folded. I recommend that people do this at farmers markets. If there's a county fair, trying to think of what other events might be very public where you could do this. Old Home Day. So you have a lot of towns in your watershed. So there's a lot of opportunity for you to take something like this and take a sign and display it along with all of your other materials, maps and things. And that's the way I would go about it. If you wanted to go door knocking, which I think is tough with a program like this, but we could make you door hangers for people who don't like to answer doors. Like me, I usually hide under a bed or something when somebody comes to my door. But if you wanted to do that, we would support you in it with materials, but it would not be my recommendation.
Most lakes have like association meetings, every summer, which would be great time. I would love to get some of those for our upcoming meeting. I live on a local lake, down in Meredith. So.
Yeah, we'd be happy to do that. And this big white space right here, you could put your own stickers on this, or you could tell me what you want on them, and I would just add that information for you here. And that's a really good idea. And I was going to ask if any of you work with Larry Spencer. I know the Pemmy River Council is out there, and I don't know what kinds of events they have or what kind of support they might offer, but just a thought that you could team up with the council.
Hi, this is Myrtle from Thornton Conservation. And actually, we've been looking for something very much like what you've described. And what we're interested in doing is doing some outreach, particularly for property owners along the Pemmy. And we just through the tax records, we can access mailing addresses and names and addresses, and we were interested in maybe mailing something out for that. Is that something that I could get your email and just maybe we could go a little farther and talk about maybe some next steps like training?
Yeah, absolutely, Myrtle. My email for the Rivers Council is president@nhrivers.org. And when I reply, don't be alarmed that I'll be replying from my own company email, but the president one gets forwarded to me. So you'll see it probably come back with my name on it.
So that was president@nhrivers.org?
Correct.
Okay. Now is this information available on your website, or are we really just recommending we go through you?
Yeah, good question, Myrtle. We do customize these materials for it to mean something. We feel like we need to work with a group, train them, and then make the materials available. So it isn't, kind of a do-it-yourself. We want to maintain a level of, or a standard of what this really means, and putting it out there and having people sort of use it on their own doesn't accomplish that.
Well, and actually this is really amazing because it's for river frontage owners and anyone in a watershed. So that's anyone. No, this is amazing.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, and I know that this little booklet doesn't come across very well because like I said, it's set up for printing, but people really enjoy it. And we often joke that this is the booklet that ends up in the bathroom because that's where all the quality reading happens. And so you can take it a page at a time or a section at a time. And people have said that they really enjoy this little booklet. And we do it with a sort of a semi-hard cover. And that way it really holds up. It's not just sort of like a floppy, low grade paper item and, fun little pictures to go along with it as well.
So if we wanted to go through and get like, 50 or 100 of these pamphlets and maybe, 10 or 20 of the lawn signs and things like that. Is this like $100 or $200 will cover everything?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would need to know the quantities you're seeking and the level of customization because we do print on demand with these. You see there's a little $5 down there just because, you have to assign a value.
Oh, okay.
But it wouldn't work out to be $5 for this booklet. But our printer has all this available and the customization means that we'd have to do a run, Myrtle, with exactly the quantities you're looking for. So as soon as we know what you need, I would get back with you with a quote and then you could decide that's what you want to go with. And we would deliver a packet to you of everything you need.
Okay, terrific.
And the training, the people who do the actual site visits, is that local people who are trained or do you take care of the training part of it?
Yeah, it really should be. That would be a training that I would provide to you. So I would come, for instance, to the town hall. You'd have all the people that are planning on making those visits come. And ideally, we might find a property such as one of yours and run it through with one of you. And then we could do a little bit of role playing. But, the classroom exercise is great if the weather is terrible. But I always prefer going to someone's house. And so you can get a real sense of what it's like to have someone come to your house, walk around your property, ask questions, and then you get a sense of how you'd want to be treated when you go out to someone else's home.
That sounds amazing.
Any other questions? Thank you, Michelle. That was very well received.
Thank you.
Wow, that was amazing. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And I am grateful that you invited me to your meeting and hopefully we'll be seeing each other in person in the not too distant future.
Very good. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Live long and prosper, everyone. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Good to see you. So our next item, we're going to discuss recent contact regarding the Penny River Campground in Thornton. And Bob Murray and his wife Lynn are here. In addition to the material that I sent out. So maybe they could respond to some questions, but I guess, in fact, we have the two Thornton reps online right now, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And there will be a site plan review at next week's, what the planning commission, the planning board, whatever.
It's this Thursday at the Thornton Planning Board.
Okay. And you indicated that they might do perhaps a acceptance of the site plan with conditions. Which sounds.
Here, I'm just going to sit down here. Go ahead.
So they seem to indicate that they might do an acceptance with conditions on their application to install 71 additional campsites, a couple septic systems, and a shed.
Yeah, this will be the first hearing before the planning board on Thursday. From our understanding, the application is not complete. So I don't know how far they'll go with this first hearing. We live right on the Pemmy in Thornton, just a little bit north of where his current campground is, and we would be directly across from this new site. As I indicated to Mr. Bolton, it's all, it's all floodplain. It's all in the Pemmy River, the entire 16-acre parcels in the Pemmy River corridor, I believe. That parcel and Irene and at other times has flooded all across, and I believe all the way over to Route 3. So it's not infrequent that it floods, and us and a number of our neighbors are concerned that to put all this, the 2 septics, the bathhouse, 71 campsites, a lot of the property will have to be cleared, roads constructed in it to get access to all the campsites. And one of the concerns is that when it floods, there'll be less to prevent it from just draining right into the river. And that's a real concern to us. It appears to us that this is a bit of a precedent-setting hearing before the Thornton Planning Board. There are 3 campgrounds currently in Thornton, but all of them were in existence well before the
It's zoning.
Shoreland
Yeah.
Protection Act came in. So I think this is the first one, other than, there was one with a piece of property called the Ham property, but it was not really about a campsite, a campground. So I think one of our concerns is that, again, this is precedent setting, and if we're allowed to put these 71 campsites in, it could lead to more and more and more all along the river. Once one is allowed, then other owners will be able to rely on that, is our concern.
How close to the river are they, where these proposed sites are?
Well, they have, my understanding is they can't put a campsite within the first 50 feet from the median high water, but 23 of the campsites are right along that 50-foot barrier. And again, the issue that we see is all the campers in those 23 sites are just going to walk through that waterfront buffer to get to the river.
Yeah.
And it will further defoliate and exacerbate the problem.
The reason I ask is that just downriver, it's in process. Branch Brook is trying to expand their sites as well. However, Branch Brook.
They've been flooded too. in
Well,
the
they do,
past.
but I will say this, nothing is going any closer to the Pemmy and the proposed plans than 250 feet.
Well,
And
that's,
so, and which is why I'm kind of surprised, that they're getting so close.
He is already clearing all these wide paths, digging pits. The trees are down without any permit.
he has not applied. I talked to, back in the fall, I talked to a couple people at DES, and then about 10 days, 2 weeks ago, a woman by the name of Mary Ann Tilton from DES reached out to me because I had been trying to contact my former contact who no longer works there, and somehow I found her, and she contacted me, and she checked all the databases, and there were no permits at all applied for at that time. And they're 30% understaffed, she said, so they're struggling, like a lot of organizations, to keep up with things, but no permits applied for, but he has done a lot of work. We did file a concerned citizens form with the Thornton Select Board. They came out, and I believe we're investigating it yesterday, and they have a select board meeting in Thornton tomorrow night, which I'm assuming they'll discuss the work that's been going on there now. But our hope is that there is that the planning board denies the site plan and doesn't allow the expansion of the campground. At the very least, we would hope it would be 200, 250 feet, at least from the river for any campsites. And obviously any support that we as abutters and neighbors could get from Prlac would be greatly appreciated.
If they're 250 feet from the the high water mark of the river, they don't need a shoreline permit, but they might need a wetlands permit.
Okay, but yeah, I'm not,
Well, and to that point, when we were at the site visit for Owl's Nest, it's right opposite where we were for Owl's Nest.
Okay.
They need to
And-
file an
and-
intent to cut with the town.
I'm sorry.
They need to file an intent to cut timber with the town.
And they may not be able to have cleared the trees that they've already cleared.
And how
by
many
the shore.
acres? They might need an alteration of terrain permit from DES.
Right,
If it's more than 4.5 acres, is it?
What,
50,000 square feet.
what he has indicated is that he's just clearing brush that was left there.
Yeah.
But
That pesky 10-foot, 20-foot tall
Yeah,
brush.
so- Yeah, so, and there's clearly been a lot more going on with that,
Yeah.
with no permits. And again, we'll see what the select board does tomorrow with that, but we don't know what the planning boards, you know, where they're coming from on it at this point, obviously.
Well, from playing golf there and also kayaking the river, all the sites that exist in that campground right now, nobody stays at their campsite. They are right down at the water's edge.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's-
On bare dirt.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
campsites there, there's no
Jellystone.
buffer, no foliage, it's just
Yeah.
right
It's
down.
still
So-
has an elevation.
It would be concerning, certainly, to have seven
More.
more. of
Yeah, and
those.
the river traffic, and we've been there for almost 20 years now, the river traffic, particularly the last, I don't know, 5, 6 years, has just increased dramatically, and
It's
what we
cheap, it's
did
cheap
find out is
recreation.
that the owner of the current Pembroke River Campground rents tubes to, not just the campers, but to
Anybody who comes in.
anybody can come in, and, I mean, we see hundreds of people coming down, and they've got their tubes all lashed together, 20 or 30 of them, with the beer coolers attached to them, and there's been a tremendous amount of debris that we regularly pick up. We've had tubers come up, we have some steps down to the river, they come up the steps, we've had people drive up our driveway to pick up tubers getting out.
Well, and last year was awful.
Yeah.
It was a disaster.
Right.
Yeah, our next door neighbor had people from the campsite walk up their stairs to their halfway deck and have lunch. And when they came out, they said, well, we're just having our lunch, we'll be gone in a little while. So it's just, yeah, we're just concerned with that plus the river.
Yeah, and also if you kayak, you've noticed there was a kind of a big jutting out where the river went around before it got to this. That all came down in Irene, I believe. It's a very much different riverbank, and that will totally erode if all those trees and you don't have the undergrowth.
Describe the riverbank. Is it
now?
6 feet above?
No.
We're,
Water level?
we're
No.
quite a bit above, but on the
There's-
campsite side,
Yeah.
it's,
It's beach.
I don't want to say
It's
it's level,
very-
but it's pretty level to the river.
But how far from the river to the top of the bank?
Not very far.
No, not very far.
We're
Just
talking-
It's
in
about.
some places, at the very north end of this new parcel, it's, maybe this far up,
Okay.
but in most of it, it's
3-4 feet,
a couple
maybe.
feet, 2,
Yeah.
3,
No,
4 feet.
the steep.
And some of it
the
is-
steep slope on that part of the river is on the eastern shore
Okay.
of Thornton.
Across from the campground.
Are you
Yeah.
familiar with Jellystone?
With,
Jellystone
It's
Campground,
in New Hampton.
New Hampton?
no, I'm not.
It's the same type of situation.
But that's gonna be that's much taller than what
Yeah,
he's
it's got
describing.
Well, it's not
Yeah.
much more than 6 or 8 feet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's also the
Jellystone much higher
potential
than that.
you can
This
file.
entire parcel is below the base flood elevation level. Except one little tiny corner of the north part of it, so
You guys all know where this is?
98% of it is
And
under that
if you
base
see the
flood elevation.
FEMA maps, it's all, it's all underwater.
That's all
So-
we have.
You can file a potential violation report to DES without specifying which permit you think it's violated, but by saying potential RSAs that you see, I see this problem, I see this problem. You can attach photos and you can submit it digitally. And then I would say going to this planning board meeting, you could kind of come with the fact that you've also submitted it to the state and they don't have the people or the effort to be able to come out and check. So then all of a sudden you have kind of a higher hand is now involved, but even if they can't potentially come out and visit,
Is this
I
a
didn't
public
file a
hearing
formal
tomorrow?
complaint, but I did send to the woman, Mary Ann Tilton, who called me. I sent her all that information. I sent her pictures we had, and so she does have all that information.
So is Thursday a public hearing or just a, it is a, so
Thursday
yes,
is
and so
a
you,
public hearing before the planning board.
yes, so as, if it's a public hearing, did you get an abutters notice?
Well, we did originally. I didn't get a butters notice of the change of time, but we,
Because you're allowed to speak at a public hearing.
yes, we, a bunch of the neighbors have written letters, and I think I sent those
Right.
to you.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think most all of them will attend it and speak on Thursday.
Actually, will the people from, Thornton go there as well? And Myrtle, would you might possibly attend that meeting?
Yeah, possibly. I'd want to do some more research. Tyson, what is that form you referenced?
I actually have it
Yes.
saved. I could email it to you, but it's a potential violation reporting form. And you can either base it on wetlands permitting or just shoreland permitting. And it's very vague for the public to be able to submit just general comments with photographs. Somebody deciphers that and kind of get an idea of what potentially is violated to the site visit.
Yeah, the public shouldn't have to know all the regulations. They should
Exactly.
just present that information to DES.
That's available on DES website to fill in digitally and
Oh,
then.
okay,
submit
I'll wait
as
till they're
well.
done.
Yeah, I would recommend the neighbors,
RSA's for
concerned neighbors fill that out and send it in.
So they have some relief there too.
Yeah, because just the fact that you sent her an email is very different than sending her that DES form, which probably puts them on notice and they probably have to respond to it, which is different than an email.
I understand. Okay.
But one question I have about so this new parcel, is this contiguous with the existing campground?
Yeah,
You can take-
they have a crossing on the railroad right now, I
Yeah,
guess.
to-
So,
They are contiguous, but the railroad track
That same one
runs
that came in front
in
of us
between the
3 or
old
4
parcel
years
and the
ago.
new parcel.
yeah, that's
That's right. I don't know if you're
2019.
familiar with where the trestle bridge is.
Okay,
Myrtle, when we went to Owl's Nest,
yeah.
was it? And we were on that bridge.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We look right across at the existing campsite and just on the north side of that bridge is where they're talking about selling.
Okay,
Cross
The
river.
train tracks come across and they turn to the right, and it's all the property from the train track to the river, which is the 16 acres with about 1,500 feet of it.
River frontage.
Rural frontage.
Do you know for a fact that they got the ability to cross the railroad track?
So I did.
They applied to cross the railroad track in 2019. And they asked us to
Got
comment on it.
denied?
Not denied, but they managed anyway.
You mean they did it anyways? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Wow.
yeah.
And we know that from the neighbors that are.
Yeah.
That's a state entity, the
Yes.
railroad.
DOT.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a DOT complaint.
Yeah,
You can file a complaint with the DOT that they're violating
so to continue with the state,
all of their permit.
you do have state statutes on campgrounds that you could
I
see.
have
You
those.
have this one? Okay.
Yes, I've
You want
read
this?
those carefully.
Also,
Thank you.
from the site plan, it looks like at least part of the septic is below the.
All the septic, the proposed septic is below that base flood elevation limit now. And I don't know. Again, he hasn't applied for permits, so DES hasn't, they haven't obviously allowed it or denied it. They have no permit to act on, or no permit application to act on.
Do you have a building inspector?
No.
Okay, so you can't, you don't have any code
Actually, someone
enforcement.
Is acting as building inspector, but they don't have one.
No,
Have
that
to be
was
the
a
select
compliance
board.
officer that they've
Yes,
advertised.
the
I
select
don't know
board
the
is
building
next if they don't
inspector.
have one. Yeah, the select board will act as code enforcement.
Yeah.
Well, they, again, two of the men from the select board came out and went to my next door neighbor's house yesterday to look across. And then they indicated they were gonna walk or drive over, or however they're gonna get there and go inspect the property. And I don't know what has happened. I assume that was in anticipation of their select board meeting tomorrow night, so that they will address the complaints that a few of us had filed with them.
Because they can't go over the railroad track. That's,
Well, he.
You
I
just
mean,
do it and ask for
The only way he can
forgiveness.
get into the property is.
or you remediate it.
and get equipment is, I mean, he has all his equipment in there now, big
Remember
front end
this?
loaders and
What's this?
everything. They're in there, so they're going across the tracks.
It's been going on for months because it started last fall. He purchased the property July of last year. We heard noise in the fall, but we believed that he was just clearing up brush. But we know it's a lot more than brush because of the pictures and the holes and she sort of back.
So I brought this up.
Has the planning board had an initial hearing yet?
No,
No. So this is,
not tomorrow.
so they're submitting their application now, or tomorrow?
That might not be
Thursday
able,
will be
yeah.
the first planning board.
So they have not accepted any application yet.
Right.
Planning board could not say it's not complete
Well,
and
it's
not
not,
accept it.
I mean, there's a lot of, other than permits, there's a lot of things that aren't on there with signs and, roads, et cetera. It's not, the application, according to the campground regulations, the application is not complete,
Now, what-
regardless of all the permits they need.
What is the laws about building within a floodplain? Is that a town level regulation or is that a
Like an insurance issue.
Yeah,
It's a
if you,
state?
if you take out a mortgage and you're in a floodplain, you have to get flood insurance.
No, I know, but I'm just wondering if there's any town regulations that prohibit,
If you have a hazard mitigation plan.
right? So we question,
You don't, oh,
He hasn't.
Thornton doesn't have a lot of things.
yeah.
remember we brought this up
know.
before? Yeah, that going, let's pretend this isn't happening right now, but going forward, that somebody needs to be active to have it on a warrant article to have a overlay district
Right.
that specifies.
That's what I was
no
wondering if Thornton had
building
that.
at
Apparently they
all will
don't.
happen within the 250 feet in the PEMI overlay.
Right.
Ashland has one.
Plymouth has one.
And
There are some
And-
towns that do, but
Yeah.
Thornton does not.
And
at this
that's
time.
why somebody's gonna have to be proactive, because it has to go on the warrant and has to be voted
So
on.
maybe you or one of your neighbors who are residents could
All you need is
do a
25 signatures to get it on the warrant.
do a petition for a warrant article next spring.
Yeah, this is all stuff we've just learned in the last.
No, I realize, I'm
Yeah,
just saying,
no,
just-
I
this
know.
is a thing for future reference.
Petition warrant Petition to do a warrant article so that it gets voted on at town meeting.
For an overlay district.
For overlay district.
You need 25 signatures of registered voters.
The town therefore adopts a rule that says you can't build within X feet of the river, or you can't, not
like
even
a zoning.
build because you can't,
Yes, it's a zoning.
because,
But Thornton has
campsite isn't really building, it's putting. a
No, they
tent.
said
So,
that they don't.
you can't have structures, whether it be a tent or whatever. Then, I would say, using the term
You
building
can just
No
implies to
zoning.
me a
anywhere, as long as
structure.
it's on your
Like Rumble.
property or even
Imply
in
no
what?
camping,
easement?
no
Anything goes.
structures within 250 feet of the
It's all state
Floodplain.
regulation.
overlay floodplain, and we can help you
Add it
with the
in.
verbiage if you're
Simultaneous.
interested in doing that.
This is where you see your shortcomings.
I mean, it's
Thornton is now popular, and some people
walking the barn after the horse is escaped, but maybe,
zoning
even
in
if-
place.
God forbid, it doesn't prevent this
One
thing.
conversation,
Maybe it'll
please.
prevent the others.
Yeah, I don't want to tie up.
I have one recommendation though. Is the railroad track road the only exit from the campground? If there's a flood emergency, is that the only access route out? Because if so,
Yes.
then they may be violating state safety guidelines, because the state does have hazard mitigation plans.
I think it is, because the railroad track comes, the current
that's not-
campground is here, the new site is here, the railroad track comes here and then curves
This is the piece of property.
between
So there's one
the
bridge.
new
So the
parcel.
track
and-
surrounds
and-
the
and
entire
Route-
property.
that
And
they
and
filled
Route
in.
3, so
Yes.
to get to safety on Route
So
3.
no
you
matter
have to
where,
cross the railroad. track.
Everybody in that 16 acres is surrounded by a railroad track.
With probably
That's a
limited,
wonderful place to camp too, yeah?
with limited crossing, because you're not gonna be able to cross everywhere on the track.
Well, there is another abutter upstream.
Well, so I was just thinking that on the top of their property, I think that guy's got a crossing of the railroad track too.
Yeah, It's
several
called
properties out
Lyford
there.
Crossing.
It's a what?
Lyford's Crossing.
Yeah, no, yeah, Life is Crossing. There's several houses along there. In fact, I was just taking a look because we did the water sampling this morning, but there were several breaks along the for private houses with access across the.
Right.
But don't you have to get that permitted?
Yes.
Yeah,
So, you know.
Might be grandfathered.
yeah, they probably were grandfathered.
Two quick questions. Is it okay on Thursday if we say your group supports our homes, or is that not something we can?
So I actually forwarded you that thing that we provided DES 3 years ago, whatever, that indicated that should they come forward with a
Permit.
permit
yeah.
request, that we would probably not deny it, or at least recommend DES deny
We're
it.
only advisory.
Okay, if I quoted that at the meeting, is that,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
You could add that to your testimony.
Okay.
And we've also been told by people close to the source that the gentleman who wants to develop this would rather beg for forgiveness. than
And that's what a lot do.
Right.
That was a little conversation we had over here.
Yeah.
You do it and then ask for forgiveness afterwards. And if you don't, you're anti-business.
Well, and you also, doesn't cut, amount of profit you're gonna make is worth the fines that you might pay for violating the various permits, so.
Usually it's like, well, you're anti-business. I'm a businessman. I'm trying to
Right.
provide, you know,
Right.
recreate, blah, 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 blah. blah.
But, you know, they think it's worth the cost of it, any
Yeah.
violations they might have because they'll make so much money off of the project that.
yeah.
And because DES.
Putting
is
septic
not-
systems in a flood, you know,
Yeah.
like
Right,
that's
yeah.
not,
Exactly,
or a shed that's full of, foundations full of water, you know,
Right.
like,
exactly. But, you know,
It's not
that's,
really against
but that's their mindset is, it's cheaper for me to just do it, like you said, and ask for forgiveness
I
later.
mean, this is kind of ghoulish, but do you remember, gosh, now how long ago it was Ames Brook when it flooded? And a vehicle tried to leave the campground, got
Right.
swept up, and a child died in the vehicle.
Yeah.
And Ames Brook is a trickling stream.
Right,
usually.
yeah.
So if you have a torrential, have one of those, well, they're no longer 100-year rainstorms, that, you have to worry that this could happen.
Well, she said, you know, they could be violating just because they don't have proper access for emergency exits. So that's a great tool,
So, you could bring it-
This campground, but precedent setting for
right?
the future ones.
Totally
So the
agree.
town that we live in, we usually cite that our fire chief, who is the health and life safety inspector, he usually weighs in on permits like this, that they have to be able to get emergency vehicles in there. There has to be adequate turnaround.
Yeah, could they get an ambulance in
In
there
there.
comfortably?
And how would the fire chief know about this?
You would have to go and speak to him
Okay,
about
so
it.
that's what I'm just wondering. He
Yeah.
doesn't get automatic notice
No.
of any of
No.
this, okay.
Oh,
I'll talk to him
Hampton-
about,
Yeah.
Hampton and Thornton
Well,
have a
I
combined
know
fire
why.
department.
Yeah, the Ashland Planning Board, our boilerplate language usually is
They have a
whenever you
combined
need to
fire
have
department.
all permitting, if you need DES permits, you need to have fire and safety inspection done before you, proceed. And, we have denied somebody, it was a condition, and they did not comply, and they could not, so they could not go forward with
could
the
he-
business.
could they adequately get an ambulance in and out of there without breaking more people's legs after they bumped over the railroad tracks,
They have to
So-
go across the railroad tracks,
Yeah.
but he has put, I don't know, kind of boards
flanking, yeah.
in between the railroad tracks so that he's been able to
Right.
get his equipment.
Well, guess what? That's state property. and You can't do that without a lease from the state. And the state says you have to have insurance also to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, again, he's got all his equipment in there.
Well, it might have to stay there.
Yeah.
Insurance.
Take
I
the
think
boards
it's
up.
provided from the state.
So some history, I don't know how long you've been in the area, but in 2017, we had a flood on the 2nd of June or July, and that required helicopter rescue from Branch Brook because some campers didn't get the message that the river was coming up, that there was a flood risk. And that was a big search and rescue type of operation. and I think Thornton was involved. So the fire chief and whoever manages
It's in the
rescue
memo.
operations
Yeah.
there, they will be very, very tuned in to access issues with this campground.
Because they
They'll
have
be
to
your ally.
prepare, they have to protect their, their volunteers who participate in this too.
That's in Campton.
Was
Branch
it,
Brook.
was that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the rescue operations.
It's a
are
joint,
right
it's
now.
Campton
Yeah.
Joint Fire Company.
The
It's a
main,
joint.
main headquarters is in Campton.
Yep. Yeah.
Right on 49.
Right, no, I know, I'll contact them and see, I didn't know how they would be contacted, but we were happy to do that.
In Sadway, usually it's the citizen that has to be so proactive in order to bring this to people's attention.
Yeah,
And it's a daunting
We're learning
task.
that now.
Yes, and it can be very discouraging because
Yeah.
anything on the state level is very slow.
Yeah, we've learned that.
Yeah, okay.
This is all great, and we thought we were being pests, so you're giving us a little bit more.
Well,
no.
you are that. I mean,
Pests are not bad,
yeah, all right.
except the voles.
Thank you very much for your time, we appreciate all the
Good luck.
input.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right, take care.
Keep us informed how your
Okay.
thing is going.
Actually, this is Myrtle. I was checking, was that a normally scheduled planning board meeting?
No, they changed it.
Yeah, they
because
changed the
they
date.
had to publish it.
The first site
They have
plan
to
review
publish
was
it.
scheduled for June 17th.
Okay, yeah.
And somehow notice did not get into the Plymouth paper on a timely fashion, whether it was the board or the paper, I don't know, and it doesn't matter. They then indicated it would be on July 15th, the next planning board meeting. But we went June 17th just to see if anything would come up at it. And at that time, they indicated that instead of July 15th, they were moving it to July 1st.
So it'll be the only thing. There were two other things that got pushed back, so they didn't want them all at the same meeting, I believe.
Well, three things will be on July 1st.
Okay.
So
Um,
it's this coming Thursday, this Thursday.
Hey, Tyson, I wasn't able to find that form. Could you maybe send that to Bill and he can forward it out to everyone?
Yeah, I have it saved. I have the PDF saved. It's an editable PDF, so I'll send that along tomorrow.
Is it under the legal heading?
I'm not sure. I filled out two last year
I
for,
have it saved too.
I filled out two last year for landowners based on their descriptions and then
Yeah,
I
it-
submitted it, so
It's in an odd place, isn't it?
it is. That's why, yeah.
It'd be good for all of us to have that.
Yeah, well,
Well, they changed the website, the headings on the website.
I just tried looking and couldn't find it, but I know I have it saved, so.
Yeah, and I had it saved because
Yeah, Myrtle, I'll share that to you and Bill as well, so.
All right, that'd be terrific. Thank you.
for all your information.
And try to find it.
And try to find it, yes.
thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it. Good luck. Thank you.
Now they have a little area where you can see what the permit language is, but it's not that big. So you try to
Okay, two items down, 10 to go.
10 more to go.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Are we gonna get breakfast?
I thought only one was a beer.
I was gonna say, what pub is open?
So we've got a couple in Plymouth right now. So the next one is, we have a couple of permit applications, one of which is the
That's the
the
one we
A111
did last meeting.
electric transmission line rebuild. Now, I'm not certain if if this is another one, because this we just received a few weeks ago, after our last meeting. And it is for an alteration of terrain. And what we had prior to that was, oh crap, what am I doing
This
here?
is the vegetative maintenance, was it?
Um,
It was for rebuild, but I don't remember the number of
Oh,
the
okay,
line.
so
Wait a
no,
minute.
the last one I got
Oh,
was
yeah, it's a different number.
That was a standard dredge and fill wetlands permit, and this is alteration of terrain.
Who submitted it?
Eversource, or their-
Eversource.
their, you know, whatever, person, group.
Does it state the location?
No, it's still, locations Franklin.
Okay.
Goes Franklin to New Hampton, right?
Yeah, it does. So maybe they're doing it step by step and.
Right, I
and-
think this is one permit, the next permit, and but
Yeah.
it's all about the same transmission line.
They're different permits, so they have to have different numbers.
That's what I'm saying, but the transmission line is the same.
Same area.
It's just a different permit for the same transmission line, I think is what they're doing.
I agree with you, Judy. Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't get any additional information besides just the alert from Tracy. So I want to get you on the CC. I'll request Tracy put your name on the circulation list so you get him as well.
That'd be great.
Just so we see what's going on. It's no really earth-shattering information, but
We'll have Eversource lines near your house, obviously.
well, actually I do. I was gonna be looking at the transmission line for Northern Pass.
And the sad thing is you're gonna be looking, if you were, you're gonna be looking at access roads for this alteration. I went to a meeting with the Eversource for New Hampton because they're having to put up new poles they're replacing poles. But it's because New Hampton has the overlay, they are within the flood. It's not the flood plain, but it's the danger area.
Right.
The 100-year flood.
No,
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 it's
it's
not
not
even
that.
that. It's
like several different
but
distinctions, actually.
and it's not so much the problem with the poles, because the poles are already there, but it's the access to getting to these poles that
Right.
they're going to all kinds of different landowners to
Because
get these
people are
roads.
watching now.
Yep, there. And it's, that's what's interesting with, it's all on the same A111 line, but I don't know what we will do to get each of those permits to see where they are.
I don't even know if you can see those online.
The maps that she showed us were very similar to the maps that we saw from Northern Pass.
Right.
And they put everything online
Yeah.
for that, but I don't know if they're doing it with this one.
They're deeded right of way.
Easements, yeah.
Easement doesn't go beyond so many feet beyond the pole,
Right.
maybe 50 or 100 or whatever.
Exactly.
So then they have to make a deal with somebody.
Right, exactly.
And then do they need to get permits through the state if they're doing it on a private person's property?
Well, if it crosses a stream,
Yeah, but if it's dry land, probably not.
if they cross a stream, they get in jurisdiction.
And that's what they're going to use matting. So I would imagine they're.
Well, yeah, there can be temporary permits.
It'll be.
But remember, they don't
bridge.
have to follow the same,
Oh, I know.
yeah, because they're a utility.
Oh.
That a lot of
Yeah.
the.
I think he
regular-
knows that.
You know that, don't you, Barry? Yeah, it says.
We've never heard that before.
N/A, not applicable.
That's
Yeah,
their hardship.
yeah.
In any event, I'll try to get hold of that application.
Yeah, that would be.
See
good
what
just to
what it
see.
entails. And speaking of which, as far as like, DES was gonna post everything online.
That's, yeah.
And theoretically, it was accessible through, their website. But I've never been able to find that.
Yeah, their new website is not user-friendly at all.
And they've lost so many people too. That's what we were talking about earlier, that they have problems like staffing all this crap too, so. But anyway. Next permit is that Glove Hollow Tree Farm. Just regarding the fact that we utilize a drone to capture.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
It looked fantastic. Did you see it?
Sweet.
I saw it. Yeah, I saw it. You probably saw it at home. Yeah.
Did you see it?
I saw it on YouTube, the one that.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
because
that you sent.
actually,
Just
when
one.
when I sent it out, yours and Max's emails came back with an odd message saying,
Huh.
Well, that's only because I probably have some scam tied in with mine. I mean, it's like, you wouldn't believe the stuff that we've been getting lately.
I'll have to send you
Is that
some.
on YouTube? Did you say?
This one
Yeah,
is from,
so I uploaded one of the 17 that Jen took.
Oh,
And it was a good one there's like, there's
It's really nice, yeah.
A lot of good ones, but it started,
what would you put in to get the information? So it's not on Pemmy Baker.
I forwarded you the link.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on the email.
Okay.
I played it on my computer, but I better not right now.
Is this permit request post dating our use of the drone? Or is this our
Or
permit that
email
allowed us to use
address
the
and stuff.
drone, or what is this permit?
All right, so regardless, let me just start with the fact that I sent an email on June 17th to DES, actually to Tyler Davidson, who is overseeing the project, that the concerns raised by Prlac have been addressed with John Field's response, and we are fine with the project proceeding. Now, that was because they answered all the concerns that we came up with. And I was kind of holding it up because I wanted also to be able to have permission to utilize a drone. And we kind of went back and forth for a couple days. And then they finally kind of, laid over, but they also wanted the person that flew the drone to produce a certificate that they are able to do it for a business practice.
Commercial.
Yeah. And there are no regulations for flying a drone if you are doing it for fun. And I think we had some fun.
That's what, but there
Yeah.
are requirements for licensure if you're doing it as a business.
Right.
That's what Colin's working on.
That's good for him to get it because I'm not certain if Jen's going to be around for the next couple of years.
You're my.
Well, if she is, that'd be great. But yeah, if Colin is.
Certification's always good.
Yeah. And they also specify, which I probably shouldn't say on camera, but it's that if you were doing it for your own entertainment to then produce, a video that you would share with a nonprofit, it spells it out in the the rules that if you were to do that, then that would be considered the need for a permit. Yeah.
For the person that flies it.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so anyway, there's enough, regardless, we got the video. And it was pretty entertaining. So-
And I think they'll use it. I bet you they'll.
They damn well will, yeah. In fact, the contractor agreed with the need or the desire to have a baseline video.
Beautiful.
And,
We got that stored somewhere for future reference to the,
Yeah, well, I'm gonna upload them all actually,
Okay.
on the YouTube share and
Okay.
just, send it out. But
does it be good to,
Now,
if
is
we have
this
to
thing
revisit?
approved?
is what approved?
The permit.
Yeah, we I did, sent a letter out once we addressed all the questions that we had. So, yep, we are fine with that.
So he's off and running.
Yeah,
well, from our point of view, I don't know, has
Yeah, I don't know
DES
if
approved it?
DES has approved it yet.
well, that's true too. Actually, DES probably did.
They have 30
I know
days.
Davidson was waiting for this response. And we only had like a week to go, I
Yeah,
guess.
I think they have to give you a response in 30 days.
Right,
DES.
no, I'm just saying, our response was put in, but I didn't know if DES approved it.
Yep.
Two different
They
things.
can be driving the post. Now, that's.
They
that's
will be driving the
often-
Is that
bus.
in the fall? Is that when they were going to do it?
They have their permit from DES.
Well, no, that's the one thing. They have the ability for DES to give them a permit to do that.
But they haven't got it yet.
They're waiting for a decision.
Yeah, I don't know if they have it or not, but.
I think we should fly the zone.
They got 90
drone again.
days.
30 or is it
I think it
90?
was 90 actually. and we-
It's
they were
90-day
getting toward the
window.
Tail end of that window.
DES operates on deadlines.
Yeah, just
It gets the good
like any,
shot
like a
and
land use board.
be ready.
You'll get it 89 days.
So. Any questions? Answers? The next item, review of an application for using defoliants on 48 acres of knotweed and other invasives.
Wow.
Well, I did get responses back from several people. And that we have until July 1st to respond to the DES. So I will, roll them all up and let Matt Bosiak know about our concerns for the use of.
I've got a call into John Martin.
Oh, okay.
He's a friend.
Oh, yeah? Oh, good.
And I will talk with him. I will not represent Prolac.
Yeah.
I'll be me. But
Who applied for this permit?
John Martin.
Is he
John
the
Martin.
applicator? I mean, what?
he's
Think
not the
that
applicator. Well, I don't know if he will be. He's applied for the to be able to
But,
apply.
but he's not doing it himself. He's having that company from, was it Vermont?
I'm not sure. Do we
Not
know
sure.
that?
Yeah,
He's the landowner, right?
Yeah.
The landowner, but he's the he's
Is he acting as
He's a
the
log.
agent?
Where's the site?
it's right on,
it's on River Road in Bridgewater.
you know where Sahegan it is?
Yeah.
Yep, it's just north of Sahegan.
No, it's just south.
Is it on the trail? Is it on his property where his
Yeah.
house is, or is it
It's-
on the trail that he owns?
My understanding from the map was that it went from the property where his house is, which is pretty much across from Jellystone,
Right.
down to Hammond Hill Road.
Okay, so
which
it's
is further
not the-
south.
It's not the trail that,
Right, I don't think so.
I
Like
was
from the map I remember, and I could be wrong, but I remember it going down and abutting Hammond Hill Road because I used to live on Hammond Hill
Right.
Road. But
Where's-
anyway,
where's the map? Is that map on that?
That's a big distance.
yeah,
Yes, yes, it was one of those overhead type thingies.
Oh, yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. And
I know
um,
what the technical terms.
What's he going along the river?
Yeah.
I like that.
Regardless,
Not a bad-
the applicant was Red Start Inc. Red Start.
Oh, I've worked with them on. They actually wrote the entire forest management plan for the BB River project that the Conservation Fund owns.
Oh, yeah?
Red Start Forestry.
Is that Vermont?
Yeah.
And he didn't list the licensed pesticide applicator in the application. It's blank, and then the client is John Martin.
there's a picture. I got it.
It's not the same area where they were gonna put in a housing development, is it?
No. Well, I don't know, not recently.
So Red Start Inc. is the entity that has received the permission to apply the pesticides?
No.
Or-
They're the applicant of this permit.
They're submitting an application.
Yeah.
Application, when you're talking about pesticides, is a very confusing word.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They're kind of environmental forestry company. I mean, they wrote the entire forest management plan for that parcel, but they also do
Yeah.
their pesticide applicator license is likely.
They
through
would be
Vermont.
the agent.
Exactly. Contracted agent.
Hey, here's I can pass that around if people want to look at the map, but that's
One of
Jellystone,
those overhead.
Jellystone across the way.
Oh,
Huh?
I said overhead thingies.
Yeah, I can't put it up on the big screen. Bill could probably, but,
I don't mess with this now that's set up.
right, no, don't. But it's it's across from Jellystone. It
Did
goes
send
down
this
as far
one
as
up.
Hammond
I
Hill.
did open this one up and I must have missed the other one.
So where he's gonna apply it is the X area? No.
Is the sort of squared off area.
The one with the hash marks? The area with this area, the area.
Hash mark. Is he gonna do
I'll have to
all
look
of
at it
this,
again.
or is
I
he
can't
just
remember.
talking this?
If you squish it down, there's probably a chart that
Yellowstone
shows you what the things mean.
45 acres.
Squish it down, use two
Said-
fingers and squish it
Yellowstone here,
down.
huh?
And there's
So,
probably a,
yeah,
Can you read the key?
I was.
here, let me read it.
Oh.
I'm
Right
lucky
along
I
the
can
river,
see
because
that.
it's densely populated.
Have to
in
give you a
there.
headache trying to
Several
see stuff on the
houses.
phone.
Yes, the
You have to
hash
get a
marks,
magnifying
the-
I only have a
glass,
dial.
yes, the places with the X's is the
More Hammond
treatment
Hill.
area.
The hash marks, yeah.
The hash marks are the
Bridgewater.
treatment area.
Right.
Two separate treatment
Yes.
areas.
So, River Road runs pretty close to the river.
Oh my gosh,
All the way
sometimes
down.
you're just like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna go off the road right here
Yeah.
because I'll be in the river.
Straight
Right on
down
the bottom.
100 feet into the water.
There's nothing to stop you, no trees, no
No
nothing.
guardrail either.
Yeah, no
I mean,
guardrail.
Does anybody have any thoughts on other,
Says 1 inch
or
is
if we potentially
833
make a
feet,
comment
but
on
it doesn't
this,
give,
potential options where if you think about a town or a state having some sort of rule about how to manage knotweed along a road, they cut it, they drag it down the road. The river is going to break up this knotweed with the ice, drag it down the river, and is it going to create a further problem? So
Right.
if we are to speak against this, what alternative would we have or suggestions would we have in place? I'm coming up blank, but I think having some option, I mean, if the state recognizes it's a problem along a road, we recognize it here, but
I would agree,
can you
yeah.
cut and tarp it? I mean, is it feasible?
Yeah,
Is
what's
this-
the
so if you do-
remediation
what is a
plan?
feasible option for this much area?
Once you remove it, what's gonna take its place? It's gonna be
Exactly.
now
DOT
ground with
says don't touch
toxic
it.
chemicals on it.
And this is where,
We-
if we give options coming forward, we
Just a
recommend
more
plus
invasive
this
take over.
instead, or as an alternative, or following the herbicide treatment.
Okay,
I think that
is-
might be,
Is there a need to provide options or just say, hey, listen?
I think
this
it-
is You're just gonna have to. live
I think
with
it's more beneficial for us to, for the long-term viability of the site, because if they treat it, other stuff's gonna come up. It's gonna nuke
right, yeah.
it.
everything.
We're gonna
Or
treat
do
it
we
next year, and the
recommend-
year after.
Yeah.
and then-
Exactly.
My cousins, we've been working on it on our farm in Bridgewater, and they said the only way to get rid of it is if you cut it off at a certain time of year, cover it with a
Flowers.
waterproof, light-proof tarp for at least 3 years,
Here.
then that would potentially kill those particular plants.
Yeah, so you're not gonna do.
So,
that
and
for
that's
40
just,
days.
yeah, exactly. So that's not gonna work for,
But that's
Staghorn
not
sumac.
harming any frogs.
no,
It's not
Let it run
harming.
like
it-
a
I mean,
No,
that's what
I-
I
It
can't
crowds, it
understand.
crowds out the.
Why we're using Agent Orange
Jap-
next to the river.
Japanese
Something like
Right.
that.
wheat, Yeah.
What the heck are we doing?
What
Yeah.
does- oh, the-
Staghorn sumac is,
Well, yeah,
well, it's
but I mean,
beneficial to birds.
I
Oh,
just
yeah,
don't
but-
understand how
and
we
it-
can
it-
say.
What-
They did
what-
that.
Okay.
No.
what a
Very
lot of people
excessive.
recommend is
And
doing
it,
that treatment
Chokes out.
for the big
Japanese
clumpy
lime.
areas
So,
and pulling the individuals
and if you had.
So at
if
least
you
you're getting
wanted
the-
to, you could take an excavator and
mass
rip out the-
done.
the-
But then the other part is bees. We're
actually,
doing it-
Like
I'm only a
multi-state
minute
wide.
taking
Well, you
this
can
half
pull
of
the
the
roots
room
off.
Yeah.
For the
You
conversation.
can't pull the roots on Japanese.
This
lime.
is-
You got Tyson.
They
I'm done.
break
I'm
off.
done. I just threw that out there and let it
I
go.
would say, do we need to have the full conversation in the minutes, people? Because this is lots of back and forth and it's not quite whatever the word is
Well,
to that.
I sent my comments to Bill.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some comments. that we
Yeah,
sent.
no,
Officially, what the comments.
Well,
would
what I have is that there's, Bill will summarize our comments. I identified the red starting forestry and recommend that we suggest options. That's what I had for notes.
that's
Yeah.
perfect.
That's in a nutshell.
Perfect.
yeah.
Well done.
There are no options.
I hate to say that sprayed, but honestly, I don't know any other option to.
But why do we need to get rid of it? What is the thing that it's causing harm to?
It's becomes a monoculture that kills everything underneath it. Literally, grass won't even grow. It'll spread from here all the way to the ocean, right down the
Yeah, but I
shore.
mean, it's truly only doing planting, correct?
It's only
Yeah,
one-
I'm not, that's a deeper conversation that I don't want to get into now.
Well, I mean,
But yeah,
if we don't have bees, the deepest conversation we could have, we're not gonna have any food. I mean, and we just watched the program on Independent Lens last night talking about spraying Agent Orange all over the place, and that was on public TV for crying out loud. And that was even not, I didn't even ask them to do it.
The
But I
timing
mean,
was right.
It's just like we've been talking about this issue. All the other countries that have any brains has banned
Right.
Roundup, rodeo, and then there's even a new one, I can't even think of, Effergen or something that is even more potent. And I just don't understand how we
No,
can.
I don't
keep
understand
doing
it either.
this.
Because nobody's
And I
come
mean,
up
I
with
hate,
something
I
else.
truly hate knotweed. I truly do, but I just can't see.
Is the alternative worth it? Yeah.
Yeah. I offered.
mean, there are alternatives, so we're thinking only in terms of chemical.
Yeah.
There's mechanical alternatives.
Yeah,
You
just
can
say-
mow it down,
Call them
burn it.
You get goats.
Well, there's
Goats
also
that eat it.
beetles that.
I mean,
eat
these
it.
are
is
not all
edible.
cost efficient and
Who's
they
it?
are not
It's
all.
edible.
Oh, but
Oh,
that's the
yeah.
other part. It makes great paper.
The Roundup idea is that it's, if I understand it right, is that it's going to kill the roots and potentially clear that patch from that local area.
Multiple applications.
As well
Still
as,
be effective at doing that, while those other methods would not be.
doing frogs.
Right.
Make frogs have, I've seen 5-legged frogs with, where it's been sprayed. It's just like,
I would just say, we don't like it.
Well, it's also, I think it's the lazy man's way out.
Yes.
It's easier to just throw some chemical on something than it is to take the time to figure out how to mow it or how to graze it or how to chop it or how to cover it or whatever the other alternatives are.
he has excavators. Why doesn't he just go and scrape the heck out of it?
Well, he could scrape,
You have
he
to
could
keep on
bury it
scraping.
at 6 feet. That's one of the other, you dig a great big pit.
Roots go
But
down
then he'd
to-
have to have a
Yeah.
permit.
another alternative, the one other alternative I wouldn't recommend, but is a closer to middle of the road, if some sort of herbicide was used, is a newer method of timely cutting it and then applying on a spot by spot basis on the stalk itself, and it will literally absorb that into the root
It
system.
has to go into the tube.
Exactly, and it's a lot of power companies started using it, and they almost paint it on, and that's used a lot with Oriental bittersweet as well. And I think regardless if we provide a recommendation, I think we might kind of set a precedent on this when we don't recommend it at all going forward and on every other project, or we have a wider discussion of other recommendations, because
I tried cooking oil, but it didn't work. I thought it might, that it might pull it down, but I think it liked it.
I
Eating it.
just want to, I
We
mean,
were
because
talking
that's
about how you cook it.
that's happening along White Oak Pond right now with power company as well, with option of spraying, but not actually spraying, dabbing things that were cut last year to have it suck into the roots. So
Well, the guy
So
who came up with his name, the Doug Sion that worked for the Department of Agriculture, I believe he did Route 3 in Plymouth. They cut it so, and then he puts the herbicide, so it goes, he puts it into the tube, the bamboo. And it takes more than one application, and you have to do it before it flowers. The bees love the flowers.
We'll hand out free turkey basters.
Exactly. So Myrtle has that.
And rodeo is the water soluble
Yes,
version
that's
of.
what it says.
I think
Roundup.
Myrtle was trying to talk.
Yeah, I have just a question. So how many acres are they
48.
trying to remove?
48.
So I mean, realistically, probably the only way they're gonna have any mediation of this material is if it's
Spray it.
if it's something you can do on a larger scale. This isn't a homeowner's property per se. It's something on a larger scale. And, you know, the reality could be that they're not going to do anything if they can't just do something where the manpower is affordable.
You wait so long.
Well, I mean, but what the reality is that if you yourself had 48 acres and you didn't have the ability to spend full time on it, how many of you could realistically say, I can control this on my weekend hours and I'm not going to apply any chemicals? I think you have to really look at what's worse, not trying to control it so that, you know, maybe it's 48 acres on his property, but maybe in 3 years it's on someone else's property who's not even interested in spending money to resolve it. I mean, you have to make a choice. What's worse, doing nothing, or, you know, and maybe there's something we could reference about using chemicals in such a way that you wouldn't excessively spray it so that it will get in the waterway. I mean, if we don't give them another solution, like Tyson was saying,
Another
we're
invasive.
not really doing much help.
It's not 40, it's not like 48 acres.
So.
Pure.
Oh, that's what it
wherever
sounds
it
like.
is. No, it looks like it's in 2
48
separate
acres.
Yeah,
areas.
2 separate areas. that
According to the map, it's two
totals-
separate little areas, or not little areas, but two separate
totals
areas.
48 acres,
Right.
or the whole plot is 48 acres, and I read it as out of his lot, it was 48 acres that he was going to.
Right, I took it as 48 out of his entire lot, but he has more than 48 acres, but it's 48 out of his lot. He has a large amount of acreage.
So, but I mean, we need to decide what this group is trying to do. Are we trying to give them solutions?
No.
It
Because
would be
just
nice to give
saying
them an
no,
alternative rather than just saying we don't like
But
chemicals.
we don't have. one.
yeah, I mean, we have to give them options.
Yeah, but we don't have an alternative.
We do, we actually have.
Oh, well, we do.
Well, but none of them
But it may
are.
not be as popular.
It's highly divided
Right.
about these choices, so.
Yeah, I don't think we're in a position to
We're not
make
gonna make a
recommendations.
No.
Yeah, we're not going to come to a consensus, but we would like him to seek alternative methods. How's that?
But if we could list a couple of the options, that might, you know, and maybe some links with the how to actually do it if you're gonna cut it and then dab the chemical, or, you know, does anyone have information about those resources. It sounds like it's probably something that's out there. We're not working with it day to day.
Yeah, UNH Cooperative Extension. We actually just had an invasives academy at the SLA 2 weeks ago, and they had
Oh, cool.
county foresters from 4 counties come and taught how to remove, control invasives, plant ID, and they have tons of information. They're all more than willing to come do site visits. They did it all for free. So
Yeah, so we should tell this homeowner to, maybe give them a name from UNH Extension.
However,
They might have some
we
fact
also
sheets.
use Roundup and rodeo.
that was the first thing we told them was they left that out of the conversation for our day. That was not even brought up. So
Yeah, I know if you invite them to, consult and get rid of,
yeah, well, we squashed that right on the start. So that was not discussed, but
This one says use lime.
probably make the pH more desirable
Right.
for not weed.
No, not we,
Oh, I know, but
grass and stuff on. So what if we just put as part of our opinion that we recognize the difficulty of working on this scale, but many of us are concerned about the chemical impacts and the need for repeated applications over many years, because all of the upstream areas are still feeding knotweed to that site, right? Every single
Exactly.
flood is going to recreate the situation.
Right.
And once there's more open ground, something desirable is not going to seed there because
Right.
it's going to have the toxic chemical on, the surface. So it could be some other invasive. This is, ooh, look at open space, plenty of sun.
What I don't understand is he is a licensed forester. He should know what some of the alternatives are by
Very
now.
well.
yeah,
Yeah.
you got,
They have the choice.
you get the New Hampshire Electric Cooperative that is not using,
Yeah.
sprays.
Why doesn't he already know about some of this stuff?
Eversource is not using sprays. The
Right.
Electric Cooperative is using sprays.
Great, yeah.
Right.
UNH Extensions is recommending rodeo and stuff. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, it's pretty much the
But it's
common
like
practice.
Myrtle said, it's the results. It's.
I like Lisa's
you have to pick your
suggestion.
Poison,
Ooh, that's bad.
yeah.
Not like Lisa's suggestion is we'd like to look at alternative process.
That's about all we can do is advise that it would be preferred to use.
And we've
Alternative.
come out and not dams, but Army Corps.
Yep.
On
They-
dams.
Yeah.
That's all they use.
Mhm.
And they're not gonna listen to us or anybody else. That's their method of control. So. I don't know.
Until the EPA comes out with a rule on it saying
Can't.
no more applications, and then all of a sudden other options become feasible.
Right.
Well, there was that
Exactly.
beetle, there is a beetle that, eats knotweed and only knotweed.
Oh, that's loosestrife. That's
Loosestrife.
purple
No,
loosestrife.
there's
No, there's
knotweed as
also
well.
This
another-
one, there's a beetle for.
I wonder what they do in England. Because I'm sure they've got not.
Oh, the entire world has knotweed.
Maybe it's an
England started.
ornamental.
But in England, it's illegal to use Roundup or any of that. They don't even use non-till paraquat.
Yeah.
It's somebody that's.
So what do they do?
Paraquat.
Yeah, paraquat, that's another poison.
It is.
Right.
Yep. Used to use it at a fish
Carcinogenic.
Oh, God.
Yep.
Maybe we should
All right.
go on.
Yeah,
Yep, we-
so I'll respond tomorrow to say that we would appreciate if they choose not to use knotweed. You're gonna get in touch with John.
I'm working, I've got a call into them.
I'm doing an experiment with staghorn sumac, which is very aggressive.
Yeah, you mentioned that to me, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And it outcompetes knotweed.
It
And
just,
easier to
it just
rip out.
dwarfs it and
Has it on my
chokes it out.
property.
That's
excellent.
It's
Yeah, birds
people
love it.
dying with it.
Right.
And it
And it's flowering
dwarfs
now.
and blocks out knotweed.
Yeah.
It grows taller.
And it's
And you can
Just
make
crowds
in
it
and of
right up.
itself problematic.
ions on
It's native. I don't know why he wants to get rid of the knotweed. Is it because is it disrupting his view? Is it just taking over everything? Is that?
I don't know.
I think he's frustrated. I think and it sure will do it to you, but I think
I like
sumac is a
I
great,
like
great.
Staghorn sumac.
Yeah.
That's a great.
Yeah, also, common and glossy buckthorn, autumn olive,
Yeah.
barberry.
Oh, right. Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, honeysuckle, I mean, what's wrong with that?
If you,
Oriental honeysuckle, not the native.
if you get a chance to look at it, you'll see a
Provides a-
large stream going through the application area down to the Pemmy. You will see this large stream that comes down and goes right through and out to the Pemmy in the application area.
Video apparently is not, goes into the.
So, you know,
Reportedly does not go into streams like.
that's,
Roundup.
to me, a problem is right there is you've got,
Solvable.
you've got,
I think that's how,
Mostly, you know, like Roundup is worse, but.
yeah.
you might want to mention that in your comment that
Phosphate or whatever the thing is.
there's a large tributary to the Pemmy that goes right into the, I mean, it goes right through the application area. That's a,
Okay, I'll mention
that to me is incredibly obvious that something's wrong with this picture.
Is that down
The
by
argument is, well, why
Hammond
would you
Hill
want to get
Road?
rid of that with them? Because all bits and pieces are gonna be like floating down that stream. So he's doing us a favor.
What'd you say, Neil?
Is that down by Hammond Hill Road, the stream?
Well, this one's up further. It's up on the top end of that, but it's not the Great
By
Brook, which goes
Drew's?
up a little further, but it's a little further down, but you'll see it in the picture on the email that it goes right down through the center of the application area and then hits with the Pemmy and
But there is that stream right at Hammond Hill. too,
yes,
that
there's
comes
that
down.
one too, yeah. But, you know, oops.
Well,
I'm gonna go with sumac. I'm gonna bring him a batch.
Actually, I'll put that in.
Yeah.
I think he should just plant a lot of mint. That's invasive.
Yeah, that will do it in.
Before the end of discussion.
Yeah. Very good.
Halfway, 7.
Yeah, so, Max.
What?
We had VRAP update. I didn't ask that you present one, but I decided to put it in there just in case.
Did Mike-
And we had Michelle
Michelle,
Condon visited today.
Yeah, we had a VRAP employee come up to Blair Bridge and work with our water testing group. And I think we all picked up a few things that we've over history probably not done absolutely correctly. And she straightened us out on that.
I was looking at you too.
Looking at me.
I was looking at
Barry.
So
I
we'll
wasn't
hear
there.
more about it tomorrow.
It's red first, I know.
Is it right?
It's P first. It's
That's
P
wrong. I
first.
mean, it's all this time.
And the amount of time you're supposed to leave things
Yeah, that's-
before you grab the
that's the
numbers.
kicker.
Yeah, yeah.
and, You know, all that kind of stuff. We're always in a hurry, but, and then they went on, I dropped out and you and Myrtle went on to
Memorial Bridge and.
Memorial Bridge
Yep.
and did another one.
Yep.
And she took all of our samples back,
That
so
was nice.
we didn't have to find somebody to make the trip down to the lab.
oh,
And then we got rid of her and we did Mad River and then we went back to our old way.
She'll be pleased to hear that.
Yeah, well,
We're tomorrow now. Beyond me now.
Yeah,
Scrutiny.
better be on good behavior.
Perfect.
all right. So we're approaching the final countdown. What should we address? Oh, dang. I
Hey,
didn't- I
hey,
didn't
Bill,
bring-
this
Yeah.
is Myrtle.
Yeah.
I was looking over this form that Tyson sent on Land Resources Management Program Complaint Form. It's specifically set up for,
That's why it's hard to find.
That's why I just sent it to them, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Because it's under
but
land.
it is specifically set up for the public to submit concerns they have.
I think you can, it's even anonymous, or has that changed?
Yep.
No, they can't, they won't do anything with it unless they
Kind of.
unless they know who it is. I think it's the right to know It's
used to
part
be
of
in-
their, it's part of their question and facts page. But, you know, there's really good information here. Like they break it out by wetlands, shoreland, water quality, alteration of terrain, water pollution, and waste disposal. And if the homeowner who spoke earlier was to choose categories like failure to install or maintain appropriate erosion and sediment controls, which cutting down trees qualifies, or removing brush aggressively, that could qualify. And you know, that is in every one of these categories, the failure to install or maintain appropriate erosion and sediment controls. There's even one that talks about the Shoreland Water Quality Protection Act, disturbance within 250 feet of a public water body. That qualifies. So there's enough things that they could submit this before the planning board meeting and reference this at the planning board, and that would cause some traction. Because at the very least, it's going to have the planning board pause, because for one, they probably never heard of this form.
They will though, they've got it already.
No, the planning board.
Oh, you got the form too?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I forwarded it. again
Thanks,
to you.
Myrtle, you got it.
No, that was Tyson. But I'm just saying, you know, this is a
Tyson.
tool that residences can do when they think something's not right. And, you know, technically the Conservation Commission really can't do very much unless there's a wetlands or other permit that we need to review. We're not really set up to go to this meeting and say much, because our responsibilities are that we review wetlands permits and other DES permits. And, you know, and if this campground is making all of these changes, this form would be a really good way for this homeowner to make his concerns known. And I'm a little concerned that it might be considered a little conflict of interest-y if I was to talk to him directly. Because that's not, you know, I'm not an environmental consultant. And this is not within my responsibilities on the Conservation Commission. But Bill, if you wanted to reach out to him and just talk to him about this form and say, this could really support your concerns with DES and get their attention, I think that might be a tool that Prlac can use in the future as well. Or at least concerned citizens who reach out to Prlac.
I would do like Michelle Tremblay and wear your Prlac hat and say, I'm here representing Prlac, not the Conservation Commission. So that it's clear that it's not a conflict of interest, but
well,
that's what I would
again, this is probably something Bill could probably reach out to that homeowner and might make the most sense. I'd never seen this form before today, but it seems like DES wants people to feel like they can report concerns they have, and this seems to be the way to do it.
When I was on the Conservation Commission, you're not supposed to police, but you know, sometimes you see things yourself, and we would use the language. It has come to our attention that it appears that contrary to RSA, not RSA, administrative rule, cite the number, that this has happened on, you get the tax map, and ask DES, could they please check into that? And
well, but you know,
this way you satisfy the person who might have complained to you that they feel they needed somebody to advocate for them.
To be honest with you, I mean, this form says this complaint form shall be used by the general public. And if I represent the town of Thornton Conservation Commission, I'm not really the general public on this.
Don't use that form, just use the format and send.
I think I would encourage the homeowner to use this form and send it in. I think it would.
Why I'm on it.
At the end, it
Here.
says, has your town's conservation commission or so-and-so been notified of this? It's literally says that on that form for that, so, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I would speak up and say, though, that you're being very conservative, cautious in the way you're allowing the Conservation Commission to act in your town, because the river is a common resource. And the greatest impact here is to the river. So I think it's totally within the venue of the Conservation Commission. And right now I'm wearing my Chair of the Conservation Commission hat. And saying
Yeah.
that
Well, Tyson said it's
the
right
R-
in section 8. It's listed right there, so.
the
That's a little
RSA
different.
that made you a Conservation Commission put you in charge of conserving natural resources in the town. And that was voted in by public warrant. So that gives you the authority to have a say in matters that affect those common resources.
Okay.
You don't approach the homeowner, you do it
At the planning. board.
at the planning board, yeah.
Right.
You're wearing your official hat, you have statutory duties, the statutory
Well,
authority.
I mean, the only problem is this is all based on a conversation, a Zoom conversation. I don't have any of this from any other source. I mean, I would think he should fill this form out. He should check off that he has contacted the local conservation commission, and then, I think that's how you'd pull us in. I don't want to belabor this. I
It's in
just
the room right
Yeah,
have
now.
a little different take on this form.
Have you sent the form in?
No. we
Okay.
haven't started to fill it out, but we would send this one.
We haven't got to that, but I
All right.
did find that form recently online.
And maybe tomorrow just give Myrtle a call.
Yeah. And then that way you can inform the Conservation Commission.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah, you share that with
That you
her,
sent
yeah.
it.
Yeah, shoot her an email.
Yeah, you guys are welcome to, do you want my phone number?
Okay.
You're welcome to call me.
Go ahead.
805 279 5144.
Short on time.
I'm not putting that in the minutes.
805-279.
Sounds like California to me.
Technology.
Yep,
Arizona, California.
that's right.
Pretty much killed it. So we got a couple of quick items, I guess, but.
I have
Okay.
a quick question for you since it's going to expire before the next meeting. When is Mike O'Donnell's
That's
celebration?
what I was gonna hit. So
Okay.
the 24th, July
At
24th.
what time and where?
It's 1 to 3. It's at the house of Marty and Sheila Reese of RMI fame.
That's the
It's
old
1 to
O'Donnell.
3.
It is, yeah.
Where is it going to be located?
Well, Marty and Sheila Reese.
Okay.
What time?
I think it's 1 to 3. And I had it down 6:24 and I arrived at their house, knocked on the door, and there was Marty. And said, no, it's July 24th.
Do you know the address? Or can somebody send it
I
to me?
can send it to you.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to know.
Okay, that was definitely one that I wanted to talk about. I'm gonna forget the Allstat site visit.
How was the cleanup? Did anybody go to that?
That was today. I found out from Myrtle that it
Yeah.
got changed
Oh.
at the Memorial Bridge. I found that out.
I would have gone today. I couldn't go the other day.
So hot.
Actually, it was pretty good today. And we got, there wasn't a lot of trash, and actually I was one of the later departures, and all I got was one item, which tells you that the river was pretty clean.
Good.
No, there really was very little, and we're expecting to make it an annual event, working with some of the local outfitters, just to kind of, they provide kayaks, and if you bring your own kayak, they'll transport you and drop you off and pick you up and no charge. And it was pretty good. There was a local article in the newspaper. It didn't get a lot more people there, but I think for the number of people there, which was maybe 30,
Whoa.
Wow.
20 or 30. That was probably what was easier for them to handle.
That's very good.
Because they did have some paying customers along, in the vans too. So,
Cheryl has something to say.
Myrtle, question.
oops, sorry.
Has any thought been given to the idea of doing this in September after we have had the summer's worth of traffic on the river?
There was so little trash. I'm not sure it warrants it.
Well, that's
the
spring.
The season has not begun.
It's all down in Bristol.
I mean,
The dam.
You know what? I can talk to one of the outfitters about maybe kind of monitoring that. And
Do it during this fall drawdown
mean-
when all the stuff is visible.
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
well, let me tell you, the water level was very low. So low that we had to get out of the kayaks and walk many places. So, I don't think much was hidden from view. But we did get several garbage bags full of trash, so that was good.
So,
You're right.
John Gallagher or John, does
Yeah.
it?
Bob Gallagher.
No, John.
Yeah, he was involved.
No, he had an access point at the Memorial Bridge we were talking about this morning. And
Yep.
you said there was like a possibility of donation to the Conservation Commission, or what was the? So that,
Well,
like universal access?
Katri, do you want to talk to this? Are you there, Katri?
Yep, she's there, but,
She said she's had some
Can you
problems
hear
with her
me?
audio.
yep.
Just texted me and said that.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Sorry, could you repeat the question?
There was the access point that John Gallagher uses for his kayak. And that is going to be either donated or the Conservation Commission is seeking to, control that so that it can stay open for just general use.
Yeah, we're working with DOT right now to see if we can draft up an MOU with them. Though I went to the zoning board meeting last week and there was talk about, I guess the zoning board has some ideas about just acquiring the land outright by the town. So I'm not sure what we're gonna pursue. I think for the short term, probably figuring out an MOU with DOT. But yeah, using that, ensuring that that's one, a public access point, but also using it as a area to educate day use recreators about ways to sustainably recreate and providing facilities at the location as well.
Remember when John was talking about, there was, like a weather event that pile up a bunch of stones there and kind of limited access to the river. And I know he was concerned about it, but I don't know if they got removed or whether or not this might help stuff like that you don't have to work with DOT or what.
And just to support what Katri was saying, this is Myrtle. It's really preliminary. We have to come up with a plan. We have to get it signed off by our town board and also by DOT. And then probably we're going to have to come up with some money to try to make some improvements. But our scope really was more about parking, information kiosk, toilets, that kind of thing. It's not really about the fact that rocks move around in the river a lot. I don't mean to belittle that. That's not really part of the scope we were looking at.
No, because the rocks had moved from the river to the shore and they were
Right.
piled up in a manner that limited access to the river. So, and that's what
Yeah.
John was bringing to Prlac actually when he first joined us.
Yeah, we're going to be
Yeah, well, it was DOT.
Oh, it was DOT.
Yeah, and he,
we're going to be reaching out to make sure that we're covering the concerns of the outfitters that use that spot and also just coming up with a more detailed plan. We haven't done that yet. This possibly could be a couple-year project. So
Okay.
we're not exactly sure what might happen this year.
So we're heading rapidly toward the end.
We got 3 minutes.
And just a brief thing as far as like a long-term project that I urged Dave Jeffers to bring it to this meeting, which he's not here.
He's not here.
But it's an application for monies available through DES, water quality implementation and planning grants. And we had 2 opportunities the past couple of years to submit a request to redo our river management plan. And now we have the opportunity, after a conversation with Tracy Sales, how best to ask for the monies. You know, we don't do like a grand rewrite of our management plan. We just target on certain things and submit like a realistic budget. So Tracy's had that conversation with Dave, and we'll probably go forward. Well, we have until September to come up with an application. And we have a realistic expectation. So I think we'll probably be getting some money to do that this year. So,
Okay. That's the corridor management plan.
yeah.
Okay.
And I would entertain a motion.
So move. Second.
Okay, and any discussion?
We know what the motion was?
Yes, yes, I do.
Just kidding, just kidding.
Feel the vibe.
Can you repeat the motion?
We were discussing this now.
Mind meld, come on.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. Cool. It's 8:59. Yeah, man, we did early. That's great. We're sticking around.
Good luck.
So Barry,
We could use new members.
now that we're off the record,
Select board after this.
now that we're off the record,
Planning board, yeah.
I noticed that Danny Duclos up on Hammond Hill Road was filling in some wetlands. He's a logger.
There's probably lights that you can turn on.
And so I said, what do I do about it? Well, I'm gonna call the head of our Conservation Commission, which is John Martin.
Yes, exactly.
And he said, I'm not going near that. I was there when he did it. And he and I don't agree with each other, so I don't want to get involved. So just a background on John Martin.
Okay.
So I did one of those forms to DES and sent in pictures and, but I'm just.
There's an issue
I asked him
now.
if he wanted to join Prlac. He says, "I prefer
The
the
recording didn't include audio on my laptop.
And he's a forester, to take care of it.
Andrew had the audio through this, but we didn't capture it on there.
They were saying?
Yeah, we just captured the video. That's
We say next month, no hybrid anymore.
There's no what?
No hybrid anymore.
There still probably will be, you know? Actually, I was surprised that everyone showed up. Pretty much.
Katya mentioned she didn't think she was gonna make it, so I'm surprised, but that's good to get.
And Myrtle said that she was initially going to show up, and then she said, well, I might just call in. But
I wonder if we can put a link on the website, an easy link for that reporting form
On a run out field.
yeah,
on the Prlac website of like, just direct people to that, because in my position, I can't necessarily sit there and fill it out for everybody, but I can give them the avenue to do it.
yeah.
It treads that line of advocacy versus education.
Yeah.
So I think directing people to it is different than us filling it out for them.